Okay, South Park is taking no prisoners in its new season, and despite backlash from Trump administration officials, they are unfazed.
Like Trump or dislike Trump, one of the things that I love about South Park is that they take no prisoners. They whack the woke, they're now having a crack, and anyone who, of course, has seen the Book of Mormon would know that's their kind of...
Like Trump or dislike Trump, one of the things about South Park is that they never hold back. They'll roast the woke, the powerful, and pretty much anyone who crosses their radar. Anyone who's seen the Book of Mormon knows exactly the type of sharp-edged humor they deal in. This time, South Park fired back at KRISTI Noem with a brutal bonus clip.
They actually released this bonus clip on Twitter last night, poking fun at DHS Secretary KRISTI Noem's past puppy-killing scandal.
Her political tough cowgirl persona didn't survive the roast. Instead of dodging the scandal, the show dragged her past back into the spotlight and turned it into pure meme fuel. South Park reminded everyone of a simple truth. You don't win against cartoon kids with shotguns for punchlines.
Lazy to just constantly make fun of women for how they look. Only the liberals and the extremists do that. If they wanted to criticize my job, go ahead and do that, but clearly they can't. They just pick something petty like that.
The clip dropped on Twitter last night and went viral almost instantly. It wasn't some silly throwaway gag. It was a direct hit on Homeland Security Secretary KRISTI Noem and her long-buried scandal.
But I actually was a little surprised that was her reaction, because she's tough. I mean, she's taken criticism forever, and I don't actually look at it as a woman issue. I just look at it as they're just making fun of everybody.
She and ICE had once leaned into South Park memes as part of recruitment campaigns online, turning edgy humor into a marketing tool. But this time, the tables flipped. The joke wasn't for her. It was on her. South Park didn't ease into it either. The bonus scene hit social media like a grenade, unapologetic and brutal, proving once again that the creators aren't scared of political backlash. This wasn't just another gag in their decades-long run of parodies. This was a deliberate shot across the bow.
Canceled big-name Trump critic Stephen Colbert's show. So what about South Park? Well, today I asked the company's new CEO, David Ellison, if South Park's scathing Trump criticism is a problem for the company. Ellison indicated, no, it's not. He praised the show's creators. He told me he's been a fan of the show for decades.
On this administration, it feels like once these guys kind of landed their contract and they felt safe enough to not be sued, they're saying...
Planting themselves firmly as thorns in the side of the Trump administration. KRISTI Noem's response showed just how deep the mockery cut. Instead of brushing it off, she called the cartoon lazy, accusing the creators of resorting to cheap shots about her looks. On paper, that might seem like a strong clapback. But in practice, it only amplified the joke, because South Park's entire point is that nobody is above ridicule. Even critics were surprised that she took it so personally. After all, South Park makes fun of everyone. Yet she zeroed in on how her animated self was depicted, face melting into goo, and that was the insult she couldn't ignore. But the show wasn't only mocking her image, they also unearthed one of the darkest chapters of her career. Back in the 1990s, KRISTI Noem admitted to shooting her own dog, a story that's haunted her ever since. South Park twisted that controversy into one of the most brutal punchlines imaginable, animating her in front of recruits, declaring, "Doing what's important sometimes means shooting your dog in the face." That wasn't just satire, that was a deep, deliberate wound. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance took the opposite approach. Instead of lashing out, he leaned into the humor. When South Park mocked him, he proudly declared on social media, "I finally made it," like a kid happy to be mentioned in the yearbook. He treated mockery as free publicity. That's the dynamic at play here. Some Trump world figures explode with outrage, crying sexism or unfair attacks. Others play along, flipping the roast into a badge of honor. Either way, South Park wins, because the outrage fuels the joke. And here's the kicker. The show isn't fading away. In fact, South Park is the #1 streamed show in America right now. People aren't just watching for nostalgia. They're tuning in because the series has become one of the last mainstream platforms fearless enough to satirize the Trump administration without pulling punches. The more KRISTI Noem fumes, the more J.D. Vance posts cheeky one-liners, the higher the viewership climbs. Outrage has turned into South Park's greatest marketing strategy. You've got administration officials scrambling to downplay it, brushing it off like nobody cares anymore, while the numbers are screaming the exact opposite. It's not fading away, it's dominating. And in the middle of that storm, you've got Paramount making moves that say more than any press release ever could. Just look at what happened recently. Paramount outright canceled Stephen Colbert's late-night show. That's a big-name Trump critic. Silenced not because of politics, but because the show was bleeding money. Meanwhile, South Park, still standing tall, sharper than ever, and pulling in massive profits. Today, I asked Paramount's new CEO, David Ellison, if South Park's relentless skewering of Trump was a problem. His answer was simple: no. Not only no, but he praised Parker and Stone like old friends. He said he's been a fan for decades. Think about the contrast here. Colbert, a man who made his name on political satire, tossed aside because the numbers didn't add up. South Park, a cartoon that has never pulled a punch. Not only protected but praised because it's still the ultimate chaos engine. And here's where it gets stranger. Behind all the memes and one-liners, behind the viral clips and the laugh tracks, there's a corporate layer to this saga. Paramount just finalized a massive merger with Skydance. A huge deal, billions on the line, and lurking in the background of that merger was a $16 million settlement with Trump's FCC. A check written, many believe, just to smooth the path forward. It looked like a payoff to keep regulators happy. So on one side of the table, Paramount is literally handing money to Trump's FCC. On the other side, they're defending the very cartoon roasting Trump's officials week after week. It's absurd, almost theatrical, and somehow completely real. Ellison isn't being reckless, though. He's making a calculated bet. He knows South Park is more than just a cartoon. It's a cultural weapon. It prints money, it drives streaming subscriptions, and every time it makes somebody furious, the clips spread faster. Internally, Paramount execs have started calling it their chaos machine. And they're not wrong. Every outrage cycle, every new controversy, every time a senator or governor fumes about being mocked, the metrics spike. South Park makes money precisely because it makes enemies. Now compare that to Colbert. Sharp monologues, but the ratings didn't justify the budget. He got tossed. South Park gets called a cash-printing chaos machine and gets the opposite treatment: protection, praise, and more investment. And in 2025, in a world where media is driven by outrage, Ellison's move isn't just bold, it's ruthless business sense. Because here's the thing about authoritarian figures: they want fear, not laughter. They want goosebumps, not giggles. They want trembling silence, not coffee spit takes when a cartoon fourth grader calls them clowns. That's why satire cuts deeper than any op-ed ever could. A policy paper won't shake power, but a dumb cartoon joke that strips away the armor. You can control oil, regulate media outlets, even ban books, but you can't stop people from laughing. And that drives Trump and his allies insane. We've already seen Trump lash out at Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, even Saturday Night Live. Why? Because comedy doesn't just question authority, it shreds it. South Park takes the untouchable strongman image and turns it into a punchline. KRISTI Noem's face scandal. J.D. Vance turned into a wide-eyed caricature. Those aren't just jokes. They're reminders that these officials are human, fallible, ridiculous. And that's the one thing they can't stand. They can take being called evil, corrupt, dangerous, even treason, but the moment they're laughed at, the facade crumbles. That's why South Park feels like such a high-stakes feud. It's not just another comedy show. It's a scalpel carving away the aura of power, exposing the ridiculousness underneath. Authoritarians thrive on fear. Satire steals that fuel and turns it into laughter. And in 2025, nothing spreads faster than a viral joke. Even federal agencies couldn't resist trying to harness that energy. At one point, Homeland Security tried using South Park clips to attract recruits. But that plan backfired spectacularly. Instead of inspiring, it reminded young people to mock authority. Gen Z doesn't fear institutions, they meme them. And South Park is the perfect arsenal for that kind of cultural rebellion. So here's the paradox. In today's America, the most dangerous opposition doesn't wear suits, doesn't sit in Congress, and doesn't campaign on stages. It's 4 cartoon kids from Colorado. And in a landscape where laughter is kryptonite for authoritarianism, South Park is essentially a nuclear stockpile. Every time a new episode drops, someone in power loses their grip on the narrative. That's why Ellison is doubling down. He knows South Park isn't just surviving, it's thriving. It's chaos, controversy, and comedy weaponized into profit. And as absurd as it sounds, a cartoon is doing what many journalists, politicians, and watchdogs can't: cutting the powerful down to size with a punchline. That's about as South Park as it gets. So the next time you see outrage about an episode, remember it's not just entertainment. It's a reminder that laughter is still the sharpest weapon in American culture. And for a company like Paramount, it's also the safest bet in the game.